Oh, that light is going to be too much. Hello, hello. IHM in the house. So I messed up my earlier stream. Sorry, I started it and then stopped it. So the URL changed. I had to create a new one. But we're here now. Hopefully everybody can migrate their way over. I need to tune. This is the pre-show. If you show up early, you get to see me tune. Wow, 39 people online. It's already way bigger than my last live stream. I will show you how to tune. I don't like to start with that though. Usually, well, yeah, maybe we talk about how to tune first, because I'm thinking like in-person lessons. I usually don't start people how to tune because I just tune for them. But yeah, we'll start with tuning, I guess. Give people a couple more minutes to roll in, and then we can talk tuning. Tuning is just kind of difficult and boring because if you don't have a tuner, it can be kind of confusing as a first thing to jump in with. So I usually just get people playing. But in this case, we do need to all be in tune. Otherwise, it won't be as useful as it could be. Germany's here again. Hello, Frank. Awesome. I've been looking forward to this just because there's not a lot going on. Hawaii's kind of ahead of the curve as far as the coronavirus thing goes, but kind of looking ahead is, just a matter of time. So been staying home and trying to self-isolate a little bit, and it's Hawaii. There's not a lot to do anyways, but nice to have something to look forward to. So just a quick recap on what we're doing today. I'm going to be starting out with half an hour of basics, how to play, how to tune, how to strum some easy songs. And then for the second half hour, we can just talk story and I'll answer some questions and maybe play a song or two if I need to fill some time. But that's the drill. We got 76 people online, so I'm feeling like we're kind of ready to go. It's 10 o'clock. No need to wait around for anybody else. So to get started, we should tune. The ukulele is tuned G, C, E, A from the top string closest to the ceiling to the bottom string closest to the floor. And I think I'll just take the time to talk about tuning with a chromatic tuner just to get started, because the relative tuning it's difficult to start with. So we'll just talk about a chromatic tuner. So basically, your goal is to get the string on pitch. And when you look at your tuner, you turn it on, you're going to set it to chromatic mode. I know there's a lot of tuners that come with an ukulele mode, but I don't like those because they limit you to seeing only the notes that are inside the ukulele's tuning. And a lot of times it won't show you if you're too low, it won't show you how far down you are and how far you need to go. It'll just say like A string, but it's low and it needs to come up. Maybe for some this will be helpful, but I like to see the chromatic so I know in the order of notes how far I've got to go. But basically, when you tune with a chromatic tuner, if the needle is on your left, the string is flat and it needs to come up to center. If the string is on the right, or the needle is on the right, the string is sharp and needs to come lower to the middle. So if I was out of tune and I strummed my ukulele and it sounded wrong, then I would take the string, look at my tuner, and in this case, I can't go reverse. I'm not clever enough a teacher to mirror things, but I guess I could. The string is going to be flat. It's going to be lower in this case because I tuned the peg down. It's going to be lower, and on the tuner, it's going to show on your left below the note. If you're too low, it's going to say something like A flat or G sharp, or even maybe down to G or a lower note. You want to bring it up to the A. We're tuning the bottom string right now. And to tune it up, what you're going to do is you turn the tuner so that the pitch increases. All right, and as you go, you should see the needle move, and the goal is to get it in the middle on the A note. The A note should be displaying, and the needle should be in the middle. So if you feel like you're musically competent and you can do it by ear, that's great too, because then I don't need to necessarily go through and explain each time, because I'm used to teaching in person. I haven't done a lot of this live stream stuff. So I'm used to being able to assess the problem on your end with my own eyes and my own ears and fix it and help you go. But just this one-way thing is a little different, so bear with me. So we got the A string. You can do the same thing for the E string, which is the next string up from the floor. It should sound something along those lines. And then the C string should be something like that. And then the top string, I have a low G string, which should sound like that. If you have a high G string, if your top string is skinnier than the C string, then you want it to sound like this when you're picking the top string. It's an octave apart. One note is lower, one note is higher, but it's the same note. So when we play together, it's gonna match. It's gonna sound fine. Hopefully that gets you somewhere in the realm of being tuned. If you got any questions about that, I've got a whole page on tuning on my website. You go open a new tab and click over to that. And in the meantime, we'll continue on with more music-y kinds of stuff. Okay, so learning to play ukulele is a two-handed thing. You have one hand which strikes the strings and starts them making sound. This is usually done by strumming, where you play all the strings and create a chord, or you could even pick and do some lead stuff. The other hand, usually your left hand, if you're playing normally right-handed, your left hand will push down notes on the fretboard, and it'll change the pitch by shortening the string. Once you have an open string, that's the lowest you can go on that string. But by pressing down on the frets, you can shorten the length of the string, and that also raises the pitch of the note. So when I push down on a fret, I press down in the middle of the fret so that the string, when it breaks, it actually breaks over the fret wires. So you can see the fret wires running along the fretboard. Each of these little guys, 1, 2, 3, are fret wires. And when you push down in the fret, you want the string to break over this here so that the string is shortened. All right, so today we're going to keep the strumming hand really simple. We're just going to play down strums probably and not worry about that too much. A lot of times rhythm is built into people, and if you just get playing something, the down strums come pretty naturally, so we shouldn't have to spend a whole lot of time on that. But we'll learn a couple chords, and then we'll put them with songs so that you can be playing some music right off the get-go. And I find that that's the best way to get started, is you just start playing music and you let the music come out, and we correct as we go. So let's learn the first chord. C is the 3rd fret space. Remember, you're pushing inside the space. You're not pushing on the wire. You're going to push in the space. And use your 3rd finger so that when we change to other chords, you can use other fingers to play those chords when you need to go to them. So hold the C note on the bottom string, 3rd fret space, and the rest of the strings are going to be open. This is called C major, or just C. okay? And to strum, this hand's gonna remain the same. You just keep your hand here. Definitely don't squeeze and hold all day long. If you need to take a break, rest your hand, that's fine, you can let go. But just to practice sounding the chord, you can strum across the strings. And you should hear something along those lines. This is a major chord, it kind of has a happy sound. And for what we're doing, I like to teach people to strum with their index finger. So now I'm moving over to the other hand. You can forget the strumming, the C chord just for a second. We'll go back there. But when you strum, you're gonna make kind of an L shape with your hand, and then you let the air out of it, so that when you're holding it up for yourself and looking at it this way, the finger is pointing at you, and the thumb just kind of comes along for the ride. But it's an L, and then you deflate it, kind of like so. And when you strum, you're just gonna strum that index finger down across the strings and just let your hand fall. And you can mute the strings if you want to stop the noise. That's a good way to practice just strumming. Like so. Of course, the road has been quiet all day until I start my lesson. Let me close the windows. Haha. This isn't quite a bedroom operation, but it is a small office operation. So with our strumming, just down, down, down. And when we count like this, we're gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And this is the kind of thing, once we're done with the lesson, if you're watching TV or watching YouTube or whatever, you can just practice this and try and get a steady cadence. It's one of those things you can't do too much of. And the more you do it, the more comfortable your hand is going to get at making this motion. All right. So now we have a little bit of motor power going on in our strumming hand. Let's move back to the C chord, 3rd fret, bottom string, hold that guy down. And a side note for holding the chords is that you can rest the side of the neck on the side of your index finger for most chords, not all chords. But a lot of times it's challenging to hold the instrument up, especially if you don't have a strap. But the neck will want to fall down. So you can combat that by holding the neck up with the side of your hand. And then you just curl your fingers to the C chord. And your thumb should go on the top half of the back of the neck, approximately. You don't want to have your thumb way over, but you also don't want to have it way down on the bottom either. You want to try and keep it sort of behind where your fingers will go when you play chords. All right, so hold the C. Let's do the same thing with the down strum, but now we're holding the chord. So we're gonna hear notes played together, all right? So I'll count us in. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. All right, they say playing ukulele is easy. Hopefully I've just proven it, and there are smiles all around in the household where you're at. All right, so that's the C major chord. We're gonna use that a lot, and it's something that we can always go back to. Playing one chord is not that hard, really, but playing several chords gets a little bit more difficult. When you change between them, you have to reposition your fingers. Plantation holly, and there's chickens outside the window. You reposition your fingers for each new chord. So there are different combinations of fingerings you're gonna have to learn to change through the different harmonies that a song might use. So let's learn our next chord. And once we have these two, we have C, and this next one's gonna be called F major. We can play a song. So we have C. Now to go from C to F, what's gonna happen is now you're lifting up your third finger, and you're gonna add your first finger on the first fret of the E string, which is the second string from the floor. Okay, your first finger goes in that first fret spot, one string up from the bottom string where we just were with the C. Okay, that's the first finger. Now we're gonna have two fingers for this chord. So your middle finger goes on the top string closest to the ceiling on the second fret. Just these two. All right? It should sound something along those lines. This is F, F major. Okay, let's do the same thing while holding this down. The same fingering ideals apply, except in this case, when you're holding down the F, you might not need to use the side of your finger to support the neck. Because there is some more squeeze friction happening, a lot of times you can just hold the neck while holding this chord and have a space bubble between your hand and the neck, just from the friction of squeezing your fingers onto the fretboard. And a lot of times this will give you better posture, but when you're changing between the chords, it's a little bit of a dance to go from having the neck on the side of your hand to having a space bubble. But that's something that'll come along with practice. Just try and get this F going for starters here. So let's try the strum again. 1, 2, 3, 4, just down strums. I'll count you in. This time we're playing F. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That kind of thing. Okay, now let's try it with C. Go back to C and remember what C looks like. Put your fingers in the right place. Let's try strumming that. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each chord kind of has its own tone, its own combination of notes that creates a harmony. Right? So between C and F, the challenge is going to be changing between the chords. So let's practice going from one to the next, hopefully without breaking time. Okay, so we're going to go C, F, and repeat that for a little while to practice the change between the chords. So let's do 8 strums on each chord. So that's going to be 2 counts of 4. A count of 4 in Western music is usually called a bar. It's a full measure. It's kind of one unit of music. 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be a bar. So we're going to play 2 bars of each chord. So on C, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we switch to F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go back to C. All right. The trick with changing the chords is that when you hold the chord, you're there. You don't need to think about it anymore. You should be looking ahead to the next movement you have to make. So by the time we get to maybe the second bar, you can start hovering your fingers to where they're going to need to go when you make the chord switch. And then when we get to the 1 of the third bar, boom, you drop your fingers into place and you're on to the next chord. Let's try it together. C to F, 2 counts of 4 for each chord. 1, 2, we're starting on C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now switching to F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Back to C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. To F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Back to C. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's another thing you can practice all day long and you'll just get better and better and better. A lot of times what you can do is play less bars or even fewer beats than a bar. You play the chord several times inside the bar to increase the challenge, right? So now we could go C and F just for 1 bar apiece. So each one only gets 4 counts. So you have to think a little bit faster. You have to move your fingers a little bit faster. Mostly it's the thinking. You're not actually moving your fingers any faster. You just need to kind of keep one step ahead of what you're doing, and it gets harder with the less space you have. So let's try that. 1 bar or 4 counts for each chord, starting on C. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3 to F. 1, 2, 3, 4 C. 1, 2, 3, 4 F. 1, 2, 3, 4 C. 1, 2, 3, 4 F. 1, 2, 3, 4 C. That's the idea. Okay, so a couple of things we can talk about if you're experiencing buzzing on any of the notes when you hold them down. The success of having a clear note when you're fretting it depends on how hard you squeeze down and where your finger is inside the note, or if you're blocking the note somewhere with a higher finger. So for instance, if I'm playing C, this third finger should be the highest finger happening on this string. If I have another finger in the way, it might play another note that's wrong, or it might stop the note, or it might just create a buzz because there's another finger in the way. That's one option. That's usually more common with chords like F, where your middle finger might lean over some of the other notes so that there's muting and buzzing happening. And to counteract that, what you want to do is just make sure this middle finger arches over and that there's a gap underneath the fingers, and so that each string can ring all the way down its length. The other thing that often happens is inside the fret, your finger might be too far back or too far forward. If you're too far forward, sometimes you can mute the note because your finger is actually on the fret and it's muting the string on the wrong side of the fret that it's supposed to be on. So you'll get a thunk sound. If you're too far back, you'll have to press much harder to make the note contact the fret. The further back you are, the more you have to press down. So a lot of times, if you're getting a buzz and you're playing far back in the fret, you just move your finger higher up in the fret, but you don't have to change your finger pressure. By moving it up, you get a stronger break angle over the fret, and the buzzing should go away with even less pressure just by playing higher up in the fret. So a lot of times, if you're more advanced and you want to refine some things, you can think of playing inside the fret as, instead of playing bang on in the middle, if you play a little bit higher towards the bridge than you might normally think you should, that's actually where you're going to be able to play the lightest and get away with clear notes. So pro tip, you play up inside the fret, you don't have to press down as hard. That's good for being able to play longer. You won't wear your hand out as fast if you can play with a lighter touch. Okay, one more time. Let's go back to C and F, 1 bar each, just to practice that, and then I will introduce our first song. 1, 2, ready, go. C, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, just down strums. I'm on autopilot here. 1, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4. That's the idea. Now, if you go down into the description, I believe I put it in there in this new video. For those who are just joining and maybe navigated to the wrong page first, you'll see kind of a test run where I'm looking a little sleepy. I started that one and canceled it on accident, so I had to start a new URL link for a live stream. So here we are. This is the real one. We're live. I think we've got 132 people in the house. Thank you, everybody. Sorry, I can't read the comments very well while I'm teaching. I can't multitask like that. But I appreciate that you're all here. It looks like all positive things. I hope everybody is doing well, having a nice Monday. But this first song that I want to throw at you is a 2-chord song, or we're going to make it a 2-chord song. And it's called Hunger Strike. It's a rock song from the 90s by the tribute band Temple of the Dog. And it's really straightforward, really simple, but it's a beautiful song with a nice melody and a nice message about how, be grateful for what you have, because if you try and take more, somebody else might not have. You might be taking from somebody else. So I've always liked this song. I actually played it last weekend at the Ukulele Festival, and everybody liked it there. So I'll teach it to you now. It just uses C and F, and we're going to go back and forth between these. Okay? So I'll just play it through once. If you want to try and jump in and figure out how we're putting the chords with it, you can. It's pretty straightforward. It's the same chord progressions and chord pattern throughout the entire song. But it sounds, I don't mind stealing bread from the mouths of decadence. Just C and F. And I can't feed on the powerless when my cup's already overfilled. But it's on the table, the fire's cooking, and the farming babies, the slaves are all working. Blood is on the table, the mouths are choking. I'm going hungry. I'm going hungry. Right, so it works very nicely on the ukulele, just as a very simple song. If you listen to the recording, it's in a different key, which means you can't necessarily play along with it. It's going to sound wrong. But the song is also more of a rock instrumentation, which is great. I love the original too, but just an ukulele and a voice is really nice as well. So if you look in the description, there is a lyric sheet, but just for now, you can look at it if you must, but usually I encourage people to not look at the lyric sheets if possible. And in this case, it's really easy not to, because it's the same exact chords for the whole way. So maybe when we're done, refer to the lyric sheet just to learn the words and to sing the words, but not necessarily for the chords. A lot of times people get really hung up on looking at a page all the time, and when they're playing, that's all they do is they look at the page and they read the chords off of the page, and that doesn't make a whole lot of room for listening and just playing music and being able to, express yourself with the music. You're stuck translating from a page to your mind to your fingers, whereas if you just play the song and have it memorized, which does take effort, I do acknowledge that. But if you can just play it from memory, you're going straight from your brain onto the instrument without having to translate. So a lot of times people surprise themselves by not looking at the page, and I tell them, okay, turn your page over. And because they're paying more attention to the music, it actually sounds better. So if you think you can, try and play it without the paper, but the paper is there for reference after the lesson. What we're doing here, very simple. We're just playing 2 strums per chord. So we're going to go the fastest we've gone yet from C to F. Let's try it. It's going to be a little slower than we were playing, like this tempo. We're going to strum down strums, 2 down strums per chord. So 1, 2, starting on C. 1, 2, and then F. 1, 2, C, and then F. C, F, C, F. Okay, and if you're getting tripped up on the F chord, the F is the hardest of what we're doing here today, and what we will do today. Maybe tomorrow we'll introduce some more chords, but for today, F is probably the hardest chord. If it's tripping you up, you can just play with one finger. You can play like a variant F. It's not actually an F, but it's close enough that it'll sound fine with this song. And you could just go C to the 1 finger F, which is just your first finger on the first fret of the second string from the bottom. So all that, the difference is that you're just taking away your middle finger. If you can, do the normal F, because it'll be good practice down the road when you won't get away with this partial F quite as easily. But if you need an alternative, then that's a good one there. Okay? So let's try the song. You're going to play exactly the same thing. All that's going to happen is I'm going to put words on top of it, and away we go. C to F, just like we were doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I don't mind stealing bread from the mouths of decadence. F, C, F. I won't feed on the powerless when my cup's already overfilled. Yeah. it's on the table, the fire's cooking, and the firemen babies, the slaves are all working. Blood is on the table, the mouths are choking. I'm going hungry. I'm going hungry. And then the verse just repeats. There's only one verse. I don't mind stealing bread from the mouths of decadence, but I can't feed on the powerless when my cup's already overfilled. But it's on the table, the fire's cooking, and the firemen babies, the slaves are all working. Blood is on the table, the mouths are choking. I'm going hungry. I'm going hungry. You can repeat the chorus. I'm going hungry. I'm going hungry. Okay? So, there's your first song, 2-chord song. 2-chord songs are incredibly valuable because it's not that intimidating to get started. Otherwise, you have to learn more chords. It's more to think about. And especially the fact that this is such a nice song and kind of hip. It's a rock song. A lot of times you end up playing 2-chord songs and they're kind of old-fashioned. No offense to the old-fashioned types out there. But for me and for my students, a lot of times they're like, let's do something more interesting. So hopefully that fits the bill. I looked, there's not a whole lot of pop songs or anything out there that are 2-chord songs, at least nothing that's really appropriate for a live stream here. But that's great there. What I recommend is, I guess here, we'll move on to the the disclaimer that I always have to put at the end of a video like this. People ask, how much should I practice? And because we're going to be doing this every day this week up until Friday, in a way, this will kind of be the practice. We will review what we've done already and practice as we go along. But if you could, like maybe this afternoon, depending on where your time zone is, or tomorrow morning, if you sit down and just spend 5 or 10 minutes just practicing strumming and going through the chords, that is the most valuable thing you can be doing right now, and getting used to holding up the time on your own. And if you feel like you've really got the chords down, you can try and sing it. A lot of times trying to sing confuses people a little bit because you start, splitting your brain in half and trying to do 2 things at once. That's tricky. So don't feel like you have to sing yet. But in the long run, if you can get to the point where you're comfortable with the chords, it's great to be able to sing. Even if you say you can't sing, everybody can sing. Think of Bob Dylan or Jimi Hendrix, right? So work on that. If you can put 10 minutes in a day, that's fabulous. And hopefully you can catch the rest of the lessons for the week. We'll be building on this, adding some chords, learning some new songs. Not trying to do anything too crazy, but just get some musical appreciation happening, because a lot of times it seems like learning an instrument is such a big deal, but it's not really. It's inside all of us, and you just need to kind of have an opportunity to let it out, and to give yourself permission to let it out, even if it's not pretty yet. It can be if you work at it. And so just keep on keeping on. And like I said, there should be links in the description. If there's not, I will add them. You're looking for Hunger Strike. That's the song that we just did. And there's something you can print out with the lyrics and the chords. I put it up there as it is more so on the recording, because in the recording, there's actually more chords than we played. There's a little bridge part that we didn't talk about. But that's in there. But you can just take the verse and the chorus if you want something to sing. Otherwise, just practice the chords, and we'll come back tomorrow and play it again. If you want to practice along with me, when the stream is done, this will be available on my YouTube channel, and you can go back and play along with that snippet at the end there, what we just did 5 minutes ago, and play along with that. So that's my disclaimer. That's the end of our little mini get started lesson today. Please join me tomorrow at the same time. We'll be building on that. And from here on out, going to be just jumping into kind of some Q&As, and maybe I'll play a song or two. Just keeping the ukulele love going on. So if you have any questions about what we did today, please throw them up in the comments. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Be here for another half hour or so, just hanging out with you guys. So now's my chance to read the comments and jump in. I should go on American Idol. Thank you very much, but I don't know if that's my speed. I watched American Idol from when I was kind of a kid, but then trailed off. There's actually lots of people from Hawaii who go on there. I've always been surprised. Playing the wrong chord, yes. The good news about playing the wrong chord is that there's only so many right options in any given song in any given key. So, you know, even if you realize you're on the wrong chord, especially in a song like this, if you know you're supposed to be playing C and you're playing F, you know, and you realize it sounds wrong, you know that you only have one other option to try, so that must be the right one. So a lot of times that's another reason to play simple songs to start with, is you can correct yourself as you go very, very easily. Is strumming always down, down? That's a good question for this. In this case, I'm just trying to keep it really simple, really accessible for everybody. I think that is the most useful strum to really get started, because what I want to expand upon, hopefully in the next few lessons, is how to take that down. Inside that down strum are the rest of the motions you need to play pretty much any other strum. But if you get comfortable with the down, if you notice, your hand is actually already going up just by playing down. You have to get back to the top of the cycle again, so your hand goes up. And so in the next couple of videos, we'll talk about playing up and down and adding that in, and that'll create some more interest. You can strum any way you like, any way you feel the music. The down is just what seems appropriate at this point for that level of songs. Just keep it really simple at first. I have a guitar. How can I play ukulele with my guitar without taking strings off? Okay, so to convert a guitar into an ukulele, you would capo at the 5th fret on the guitar, not on the ukulele, but on the guitar. Because if you capo on the 5th fret, the ukulele is actually the bottom 4 strings of a guitar capoed at the 5th fret. A capo is a little metal or plastic bar that basically squeezes on the strings so that all your strings become shorter. It basically changes your tuning easily and makes it so that you can play the same chords, but they will sound higher. This is helpful for changing the key for your voice quickly. But for guitar, and then you would just ignore the top 2 strings closest to the ceiling. You can put like masking tape on them or something if you really feel like they're in the way, or if you want to block them off visually, maybe some tape would help. But yeah, capo on the 5th fret and then play the bottom strings. What should I do if I don't have a tuner? There are lots of free tuner apps on your Android or your iPhone. I don't even know which one I have on mine. Any of them these days, the competition's so stiff that they're all pretty good. I've got the Pano tuner, probably just because it came up first when I searched for a tuner. They're all different. They all have different kinds of displays. There's probably also online tuners that you could find, but definitely if you have a smartphone, an app would be the easiest way, and a display is really obvious. It doesn't need to be an ukulele specific tuner. Just look for a chromatic tuner. It'll tune a guitar, it'll tune your voice, it'll tune an ukulele. Do I ever play reentrant tuning? I do not, but when I teach, I try and not force anybody onto my low G style, because that's my personal choice. I shouldn't enforce it on you unless that's something we're specifically talking about, a song that requires that or not. Playing just simple songs like this, either or, can be nice, and actually having both together would create more note varieties, more note options, and that might also, it might sound fuller that way if you have a low G and a high G playing together. But that's for the 2 people ukulele households out there. Let's see. Uh-oh, I jumped to the bottom and lost my place. When you strum, which part of your finger do you use to hit the string? Is there a way? Time. I thought maybe there's a way to highlight a comment, but that's the advanced live YouTuber, which is not I. Which part of my finger? The part of your finger you want to use is actually your fingernail. You might think that you're using the side of your finger, but if you naturally let your hand curl up from the L shape, when you strum down, actually your fingernail is almost pointing directly at the floor. If you have it like within 45 degrees to the floor, that's the angle you want. So when you play, you're actually hearing the click of the nail across the strings. So that helps prevent wearing out your finger, because a lot of times the side of the flesh of your finger next to your fingernail, if you smash that between the strings by trying to play exactly on the side of the finger, that'll get red and raw. So instead, you just let your hand droop naturally and play with your nail. And then when it comes time to introduce up strums, all you do is you let your finger out and you play with the pad of your finger. But we'll get to that tomorrow. Which do I recommend, high G or low G for a beginner? I don't think it really matters, because a lot of times a beginner is going to be playing, if they're picking at all, they're picking stuff on the bottom 3 strings. And with strumming, the sound to me isn't that different. I teach both all the time, and it's never really been like, oh, that sounds weird, or oh, that sounds weird. Some people say that the low G has a more full sound. That's because you get a lower note in your chord, whereas the high G is a little bit tighter, more traditional ukulele sound. This is so great. We're still over 100, and the comments are coming in so fast I can barely keep track of them. Can I play Somewhere Over the Rainbow? Sorry, I don't know that one off the top of my head. That's a beautiful, beautiful recording that Iz did, but it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it's so good that almost nobody can cover it and make it sound as good as he did. So I don't even try, honestly. You can put a low G on a concert ukulele. You just have to get the right string gauge. I don't know exactly what that would be, but there are plenty of people that you could search it on Google and find that. How am I muting my strums? In this case, I'm not. For the down strums, I'm not muting the down strums. I love to pick. Will you be covering tabs? Maybe. I haven't thought about it. Honestly, I haven't planned out all my lessons yet. So there's lots of room for requests. It would probably be nice if we did a picking song at some point along the way. That tends to take a little bit more time, but it all depends. If this starts really, really popping and we get cruising along, and I feel like we're covering ground, I might extend the lessons and we can do a little bit more. But yeah, stay tuned. I think we could probably do some picking. I've been playing guitar for half a year. How different is the ukulele? It's not that much different. A lot of the chord shapes will be familiar and the same. The difference is obviously you're losing 2 strings and it's higher, so that the names of what you already know will be different. But other than that, the shapes are for the most part the same. And with ukulele, you usually don't use a pick, you use your finger instead. Write us a new song. I got the Corona Blues. I was actually thinking about how you would put that in a song with a metaphor, but I didn't come up with anything clever yet. I'll continue working on it, thinking about it. Can you use your thumb instead of index finger? Yes, you can. And a lot of times that's nice for a more mellow jazz sound. Like if you watch jazz players, like if James Hill was doing something fancy, the thumb will give you that nice soft sound. But in our case, where I'm trying to create a foundation for everything, playing with your index finger gives you options to do more in the future. It's expandable, whereas the thumb strum is very specific, and I don't recommend ever playing up with your thumb. So if you're trying to like strum with just your thumb and go down and up, or do more sophisticated stuff, it's hard to do. Even for me, I don't even work on it, so can't even do that. So with the index finger, you have those expandable possibilities. That is why I recommend the index finger. Demons by Imagine Dragons. I'm not much of an Imagine Dragons guy. I probably recognize it from the radio, but I'm not. I said something in my email. It was like, we'll play hip songs. And then I realized, like, Brad, you're not actually that hip. You're still playing songs from like 10 years ago. So, yeah. 10-year-old daughter and I are joining on Pam Mandel's recommendation. Pam is one of my favorite people in the world. I love Pam. Some teases from the 2 technique books for the more advanced. Yeah, we can jump up to some more advanced stuff. Of course, each book is like 60 pages long, so it's like, what do I even talk about? One of my favorite things is fretting. It's talking about the real details of fretting, and for that, I kind of got the biggest kick out of writing those parts of the book, because you talk about things like, let's talk about shifting real quick, okay? We're shifting gears out of the easy stuff. This is going on to more advanced things for the advanced people who are tuned in. But the concepts are all there. Even if you can't play it, the concepts will be there for when you can play it. If we're shifting, say we're going to play a 1, 2, 3, 4 exercise on the bottom string. So you're just playing frets 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you shift, instead of playing and continuing up, this is just a chromatic scale on the bottom string where you play all the frets. Instead of playing with your pinky finger all the way up for the next bit, when you shift, you would move to your index finger and start fresh on the fret above where you were. So 1, 2, 3, 4, shift to 5. And then when you go to play 6, 7, 8, you can use your fingers in order again. And same thing goes as you move up higher. See that? So 2, 3, 4, shift, 1, 2, 3, 4, shift, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it would be just the opposite going down. You start with your pinky, and then shift down. So you start with your pinky, shift down, start with your pinky. That's a great exercise for building your speed moving up and down the string. So if you can play that. Right? That kind of a thing. Just, it gets your fingers moving. And even if you're a beginner, playing that 1, 2, 3, 4 exercise is very helpful for getting control of your fingers. And you would just pick with your thumb on the bottom string. So if you practice shifts, that to me is kind of an advanced thing, because a lot of times I see, people who, oh yeah, I'm an advanced player, and they're still playing the whole song with their pinky finger and just moving around and only playing with their lower fingers in the lower positions. So being able to shift is, to me, kind of a more advanced thing. Which size ukulele do you recommend for a beginner adult woman? I think that concert is probably a really nice starter size, just because it's kind of the Goldilocks thing. It's in the middle. It's got a little bit richer sound than a soprano ukulele, but it's not quite as tight and tiny as a soprano. That's just me. Anybody can play any size. It doesn't really matter that much on your body size, I don't think. I always think about Tiptoe Through the Tulips when I hear an ukulele. Can you rip that tune sound through a distortion pedal for us? That's another one I don't know intentionally, but I would love to see somebody rip that through a distortion pedal just for fun. That sounds great. If you strum up and down, can you switch between going down with your thumb and up with your index finger? Yes, you could. This would be more Kimo Hussey style, which I don't personally play too much, so I would refer you to him. He's got a collection of lesson videos on the HMS, Hawaii Music Supply YouTube channel. And even elsewhere, I think he might have his own YouTube channel where he talks about his strumming style. But he does kind of a pinch sort of thing where he's playing like the top strings with his thumb down, or just a normal strum, and then up with his index finger. So he gets kind of a funky rhythm with it that is really gentle sounding. And I don't know anybody else who really uses that style. It's really cool. But you can definitely do that. That's a workaround of the thumb down strums. You could play down with your thumb, up with your index finger. But again, it's sort of its own thing, and it's not as expandable as just playing with your index finger. Never gonna give you up. Get rickrolled up in here. That's classic. Am I a pro ukulele player? Yes and no. By professional, I understand that means you make 25% of your income doing whatever you do. I don't make 25% of my income by playing ukulele professionally, like on stage at gigs. But my website, liveukulele.com, where I have lots of resources and lessons and song sheets, that is my main source of income. So in that sense, I'm a professional ukulele educator and instructor, but not necessarily a performer. What is the best way to stretch out your fingers to play chords such as E if you have smaller hands? Hand stretches. I was never one for hand stretches. What I remember about hand stretches is that Aldrin Guerrero can stretch from like the 1st fret all the way up to the 9th fret without having to do anything weird with his hand. I always thought that was crazy. I don't have very flexible hands. I have, fairly large hands, but they're not super flexible. I imagine the best thing you could do would just be, of course, don't rip your finger tendons up, but if you just practice, playing the kinds of things where you're, making stretches, you could see how many frets you could stretch and play between them. You could play things where you're splitting your fingers evenly. So you have you could play 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret. And I think, you could shift away from those fingers instead of trying to hold them down all as you go. That's kind of a long stretch. But just by playing out, and widening your hand in that way, I think that would be beneficial, along with different chord shapes that stretch. You don't have to do like any Benny Chong kinds of stuff, but if you play like things along those lines. Really, if you just take any chord grip that and add melody to it by playing on the top string and reaching up with your pinky, just find a note that sounds good with the chord, and in that way you could practice forcing your hands to kind of widen up a little bit, but don't overdo it. I mean, don't feel like you have to have a 9-fret stretch to play ukulele. I know a lot of guys can, like Jake and Aldrin, they can play all that kinds of stuff, but I've just realized that's a limitation. I can't do that. And so I don't play those chords. I find other chords and other ways to do it. Am I originally from Hawaii? I was born in California. I moved to Hawaii when I was 12. So I spent far more than half my life here. This is home now. I've been playing pretty much since I was 12. So 05-ish. Which is like 15 years now. Wow. Been a while. It's treated me well. I'm so glad that when I started playing, I was 12 and just showed up on the island, and my mom actually saw an ad in the newspaper for ukulele lessons, group ukulele lessons through like the Parks and Rec or something. I was like, oh, you should go try it out. We'll get you an ukulele and you can go try it. And I actually went with my dad. My dad was my first lesson buddy. We went and we sat in the group and learned some easy Hawaiian songs and had to strum along and play. And that was the very beginning. It was actually Kumu Roselle Pili Aloha from Kona. I haven't heard anything about her in years and years, but yeah, that was my very beginning with ukulele. It was when I was 12. How do you move from one note to the other so smoothly? I hate to say it, but just practice. If you pay attention to things like that and really focus on them and slow down your playing so that you can observe what's actually happening in your motions, I think that's very key to playing smoothly. So like, for instance, something very simple, just those two notes. It's very simple. There's not much to it, but there actually is a lot to it. The more you sit and you slow it down and you look, where are your fingers landing each time? Are you 2/3 up in the fret? That would be the best place to be. Are you squeezing too hard? Is your finger way out here? If you play closer to the frets, so you don't lift your fingers up as much, you can play faster and probably smoother. So it's just really a matter of slowing down and paying attention, but also just practicing those things and practicing with those things in mind as you go forward. When's the next lesson? The next lesson is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Same time, same place, just tomorrow. And we'll continue on with the first half hour-ish of what we were doing with Hunger Strike and continue on there. That's the plug for the next time. I need to put links. I didn't get a chance to do it with this kind of re-stream because I broke my first stream, but I'll put links to the consecutive lesson streams in the description because it's on a different URL each day because it's going to be a different stream. But if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see there's one for each day of the week. Should be, you can set a reminder for each of those so you get an email notification if you think you might forget. Otherwise, you can just go to the YouTube channel and find that, and I will try and remember to put a link in the description. Mention Maui Hawaiian Studies, Mele and Olelo. Yeah, I went to school on the island of Maui for about 1.5 years in a program called the Institute of Hawaiian Music. That is where we played. I was actually thinking today, like, gosh, we played so many gigs while I was over there. We did lots of like school benefits, and it was very much a new program when I first came in. So they were trying to raise money. So we'd go play like, several gigs a week at least, a couple gigs every weekend to try and fundraise. And we'd go play with Uncle George Kahumoku. He was the head of the program at that time and helping to fundraise. And yeah, we played lots of gigs. We studied Olelo Hawaii, the Hawaiian language. We learned songs. We learned actually to dance a little bit of hula one summer. Really good opportunity to just not necessarily improve my playing, because I don't think as a player I improved much, but I improved my consistency as a player just from playing a lot and learning lots of songs and being in a band and being on stage and being just kind of on a lot of the time. And that really helped me improve as a musician. Yeah, IHM. Woo! Yeah, class of 2013, whatever it was. We had a good time. Do I give individual lessons over the internet? I do not anymore. I used to, but it got to be that I realized I could probably reach and help more people through the website by putting my time and effort more into the resources I publish there. So hopefully this is kind of a compromise. I really like kind of how this goes and being able to do this. Maybe it totally depends how all this happens, how I'm feeling at the end of the week. Might continue on indefinitely while this coronavirus thing is happening. Maybe go to once a week, a couple times a week. I'm not sure yet, but hopefully this is useful for people. Am I able to play most songs by now? Yes, depending on the genre. I can, for the most part, sit down and just figure out a song on the fly as we go along. Just from practicing doing that and practicing training my ear, basically by playing along to my iPod and stuff. But I'm not so much a jazz cat. If you get me into a jazz setting, I'd probably be pretty lost. But like rock and pop and folk kind of stuff, I can pretty much pick it up. And Hawaiian, of course. Thanks from the Great White North. Be back tomorrow. Time zone. The time zone, I'm at 10 a.m. The lesson's gonna be at 10 a.m. Hawaii time, which I believe in the calculations is 1 p.m. West Coast time and 4 p.m. East Coast time. I'm not positive, but if you come to the video, the live stream page beforehand, it'll actually tell you in your time zone. It automatically does the time conversion for everybody, so that what you see on your page is when the live stream will be happening. How long does it take to build up calluses? A couple weeks, a month-ish, depends on how much you play. It's going to be sore at first. It's sort of the price you pay. But yeah, if you just keep at it, I mean, obviously don't play until you're bloody and raw or whatever, but if you keep at it and just appreciate that is kind of the burn. It's like when you start running or exercising or something, it's kind of that first little bit is a push. It's a little bit tough. So that's the ukulele version of that, is when you start to build your calluses. It's kind of sore at first. I remember I had one of the very first lessons I taught. It was a group session, and there was a gal in the class who was very very proper, very nice, and I told her that her fingers were going to get calloused and hard, and she was so grossed out by that. It's like, ooh, I don't want to have calluses on my fingers. It's like, well, sorry, you're in the wrong class probably. That's a good point. The videos and the live will actually save onto my YouTube channel. So even if you aren't able to catch them live, you can watch the video on your own time once it's done and catch up that way. And I plan on leaving these up indefinitely, just as a resource, because we'll be going through the simple lessons here. Hopefully that can be useful for people into the future, even when I'm not broadcasting them live. But if you're live, you get to be part of the chat. I get to know that you're there and appreciate you even more so. But yeah, you can watch these at a later date. My daughter tuned out but went to teach herself pineapple mango. That's classic. Thank you so much, everybody. Yeah, I guess we're getting up to 11 o'clock. I mean, we can stay as long as I'm feeling up to it. But yeah, I appreciate the big number of support. That was really, really cool. I think my last live, I had like 20 people overall checking it out. So we were well up over like 120 today. So that's cool. What would be a nice song to practice? I would work on the Hunger Strike. I think that's good. Otherwise, I actually have a post called, I think the list is 60 now, but 60 easy songs for ukulele, where it's mostly 3-chord songs that are all pretty easy to play. And it's if you go to my website and search easy ukulele songs, it should pop right up. And if not, I can put a link in the description for the next videos. But that would be a good resource for finding more easy songs that are good for getting started and practicing your chords. The picture on the thumbnail is from Mono Lake. My dad and my brother took a trip out there this past summer, and my brother took those pictures. He's a photographer, so pretty fun that he got. And they're actually all 5 from the thumbnail set are from Mono Lake. So kind of a bizarre piece of country, but we had a good time. Favorite travel uke? I don't know if it's my favorite, but I have been to New Zealand for 6 weeks and to Europe for 3 or 4 with my outdoor ukulele. Never in a case, even on the plane. It was just under the seat in front of me. It was strapped to my backpack, and it's still kicking around in my car. It's been when it's not traveling around, it's in my car in all weathers and all times of the year / day. And it's never given me any problems. It's just always fine. I've lost some of the buttons for the tuners have come off over the years, but I think they updated the tuners to be better on the newer models. Yeah, thanks so much, everybody. I'll hit up a couple more questions if you got them, and then sign off, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Same time, same place. We'll continue on where we were. Thank you all so much. Name of the first song I made. It didn't even have a name. It was just little ditties that you write as you're playing and coming up with stuff. That would have been the first thing that I made. Probably the first good song that I wrote or helped write was Carve from my first EP, Point A. I actually had some help from Herbote Jr. putting that together with my friend Micah. We wrote that, and he was kind of the inspiration. He kind of came up with the riff, or however it goes, and he kind of gifted that to us. He said, like, go write a song with this. This is fun and good. Be a cool thing for a song. So he gave that to us. So that would probably be my first real attempt at writing a decent ukulele instrumental song. Hapa hula songs. We could talk about hapa hula songs. The odd number. Yeah, I hate odd numbers. When I'm on my car stereo, I always try and get myself an even number on the volume. I love my outdoor ukulele. I got it on your recommendation. I'm glad you like it. Yes, I love mine. It's never let me down. Is ukulele the only instrument you play? I play a little guitar. I'm playing more guitar because I'm now playing in a duo with a friend doing guitar and ukulele, and it's always either guitar or ukulele. So we switch back and forth between instruments. I don't consider myself a guitarist. I always pick up the guitar and go like, well, I wish I actually knew how to play guitar, but I play a little guitar and a little bass. Draw the line at 13, still waiting for the Harmony Wahine version. That would be awesome. Be totally awesome. I actually haven't thought about that song in a while. They just came out with the new, I can't remember the name, but it was like all the Mauna songs. There's like the compilation album. It's up for a Hoku Award. I think it should be on there. That'd be awesome. But yeah, I'd be totally down if somebody was interested in putting that together. But I don't have the connections for those people that would be very appropriate on that track. Did I have doubts at first? Not really. It was always kind of my thing. I just did it. It was fun. I think that's the main thing. As long as it's fun, you're not going to have doubts. And then another thing is, don't pressure yourself. That would be the only reason that would really create doubts. It's like it's supposed to be fun. If you're not doing it for fun, you're probably doing it for the wrong reason. What is my outdoor ukulele? It's a plastic ukulele. It's Heineken bottle green, and it's the whole thing is cast, and it's actually made in Bend, Oregon. They make them there, but the whole thing is cast out of plastic, and so it's basically waterproof, heat proof, temperature proof, everything proof. I stomped on it and set my bag on it on accident, and it just keeps on going. Thanks, Gary. Please join us tomorrow if you can. Yeah, outdoor is the brand. All right, everybody. Well, I will see you all tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe, isolate if possible, and yeah, we'll weather this thing out together. And catch you tomorrow and play some more music. Aloha.